Chef and Microsoft have been working together for a while now, more so in the last 1 year, where we've been working very closely to build these end-to-end solutions that work seamlessly in Azure. And that is what we're going to talk about in today's session. We will look at how you can use Chef to automate workloads in Azure, whether it's IaaS or PaaS, whether it is Windows or Linux, and whether it's cloud or hybrid. And we'll do that by taking MSN as a case study, which, by the way, runs in Azure at a high scale, and all of the deployment automation is managed by Chef. And Eugene will give a demo of that. Before I jump into the next slide, a quick show of hands. How many of you have used Azure? Cool. And how many of you used Azure for Linux workloads? Okay, not bad. So, for those, most of you are familiar, so I don't have to do a lot of 101 introduction, but you might have seen this already. The core pillars on which Azure delivers today is delivering a hyperscale, enterprise-grade, and hybrid cloud solution. We'll look at why this is important, no matter whether you're running a dev test workload or whether you're running an enterprise workload, why these things are important for us. So first of all, what are the services that are available in Azure today? There are about 300 or so services that Azure supports today. And roughly they fall in these high-level buckets. The first one is the Azure Virtual Machines. This is the easiest way to get started in Azure. This supports Windows and Linux virtual machines. And Mark this morning mentioned that about 1 in 5 VMs is actually a Linux virtual machine. And then we have what we call the PaaS, Platform as a Service solutions. These are cloud services, websites, and mobile services. These, again, statistics have shown that about 60% of applications that run in Azure today use one or more of these cloud services. So these services provide, these high-level services provide multiple services in turn that enables this enterprise-grade cloud. Just because you're running in production cloud doesn't mean that you have to compromise on any of the enterprise capabilities like disaster recovery or monitoring, alerts, security, compliance. And if you look at most of the other services that are supported by Azure, so this slide, whoever can read the last line quickest gets a band, Microsoft band. Just kidding. I didn't mean it to be an eye chart like this, but there is a band. If you do a survey in the end, one participant will get a band. So that part is true. But this is the overview of all the services, not all the services, a few of the core services that are supported by Azure today. Quickly, if I want to read some of these that are used a lot, is analytics, machine learning, and things like backup as a service, automatic system recovery. So these are all the services. Do visit azure.com to get an overview of what are all the services that are available today. And you might be surprised actually. The next thing is footprint. So this is, to truly be a hyperscale service cloud provider, Azure has been investing a lot in the growing its footprint. So we have about 19 regions worldwide. This is something, we've announced a few in the last year itself. So this is actually the highest in any cloud provider. And what this means is, unprecedented capacity for you to run your applications, and scale anytime you want and anywhere you want. And we feel that this is one of the big differentiators today with cloud. Not many cloud providers can provide this. Then in terms of what are all the technologies that are supported in Azure today? So as an open cloud, Azure supports most of the technologies. This slide is not really complete. This keeps changing every couple of months. But Azure has been on a journey, as Mark mentioned this morning. Azure has been on a journey to expand its support of all the technologies that can run in a very first-class way in Azure. So whether it is Microsoft integrated technology, like this is something that Microsoft develops, or we work with a partner like Chef and we develop, or community provided ecosystem. So today we have a very broad support, and we really hope this keeps growing. And the last thing, right? Why Chef on Azure? Why is it really cool? So Azure today, some of the work that we have been doing in the last few months is to bring the level of consistency between your on-prem data center or cloud. So what that means is you have a same stack that runs on both environments, and you have the same set of tools and APIs that you can use to access any of these. And when you start using Chef on Azure, you write your recipes or tools. The goal is to provide a consistent experience, whether you're doing it on-prem or cloud. With that overview, I want to take a step down to see how we have integrated Chef in Azure today. So this is something we have done last year, bootstrapping the Chef agent in Azure. It's used a lot. It has really simplified deployment automation. So the way quickly how it works is if you want to use Azure, there are many ways to do. You can start from Azure portal, or you can go to Knife or Azure CLI. Azure CLI is a node-based cross-platform CLI. You can run it on any environment. So when you go create a virtual machine here, the purple box is the virtual machine. So after you create the virtual machine, you can inject a Chef agent. Azure supports multiple curated agents. We call them extensions. So you can inject an agent into the virtual machine, either while creating the VM or any time during its life cycle. You have a virtual machine that you've created some time ago, and you want to inject Chef agent into it. So you can do it using this injection technology. Again, you can do it from Knife, Azure CLI, or Portal. So this is one of the ways we have simplified bootstrapping Chef on Azure VMs. Then just this week, actually late last week, Chef has launched the Chef Server image in Azure Gallery. This really simplifies setting up Chef Server in Azure. I've actually tried it myself. Once you go to the Azure Gallery marketplace and find the Chef Server, enter the default credential, username, SSH certificate, that's all. And when you say OK, Chef Server comes up in a matter of minutes. So this really simplifies deployment of Chef on Azure. Then one last thing that I want to talk about that really brings the power of DevOps is the Azure Resource Manager. How many of you have used Azure Resource Manager or seen a talk about that? Okay, cool. So Azure Resource Manager, so when you create resources in cloud, whether it is virtual machine or storage or network, normally you think of them as individual entities. But in reality, if you deploy a multi-tiered application, there is a need for these these resources to talk to each other. There is a need for the administrators to group them together to apply some common lifecycle policies or security policies, and administrators would like to get a single bill for all the resources they have consumed. So that is where Azure Resource Manager comes into picture. Azure Resource Manager combined with templates, JSON-based templates, actually enables you to orchestrate your environment, author your environment in a JSON template. And the Azure Resource Manager can provision all these resources from the template, and it executes it in a idempotent fashion. It takes care of all the orchestration, so you can set dependencies, which resource comes up first, which one comes later. And the real beauty is these JSON templates, they are like code. You can check them in Source Depot, you can basically, this really extends brings true DevOps to creating resources in Azure. So I wanted to do a demo of creating this template, but because we did just 5 minutes before the session, I realized my laptop doesn't work. So we're going to try. We have a makeshift demo. I hope this works. Okay. So before we start, I want to give a quick tour of the Azure portal. It's not logged in as me, so but the demo that I've built I cannot show, unfortunately. I'm borrowing Eugene's laptop. But if you go to the Azure Marketplace, this is the starting point for virtual machines. Here is where you can find any image that you want. So if I want to create Chef Server in here, there you go. So we have Chef clients and we have Chef Server as well. Do create. It takes a couple of minutes. It's a bit, the network is a bit slow, but when this comes up, it asks you to enter default credentials like I've shown in the screenshot, and then you can create a virtual machine. So basically the Azure portal takes the templates and the resource manager orchestrates the creation of the templates. So I also want to take show you behind the scenes how one of these templates look like. So we have a bunch of templates today in GitHub. I'm going to pick one of these and I'm going to deploy it from GitHub. So if you look at these templates, this template in particular creates a single virtual machine, and I've parameterized in taking a bunch of input parameters. It creates storage accounts, it creates virtual networks. Everything is being written as a JSON template, and you can easily envision having a multi-VM template. You can envision templates where you have server and then you have clients, all of these in one single template. So, in the end, I'm creating a virtual machine. On that virtual machine, I'm adding the Chef extension that I talked about, and I'm passing it some parameters. What is my node name, what is my Chef server URL, my client name, and the validation key. So it's really pretty straightforward. You have one template, and then there is the parameters for the template. So here is where anybody who's running a template can customize it for themselves. They can put their own Chef server URL values, etc. So once I have this template, I go to GitHub, and in this demo, I'm demoing from GitHub, but this can be done from Azure CLI. This can be done from Portal, and we are hoping, in future, this can also be done in using a knife as well. So I'm not going to enter all these values right now because I don't have logged in with my subscription. I know this is going to fail. But what the idea is, with this, you can see that I'm entering a bunch of templates, and when I say OK, it is going to provision, in the order that I have defined, it created in the template. It's going to create the storage account. It's going to create the virtual network. It's going to create a virtual machine that is going to use the storage and the network. So that's one way of creating, creating your resources in Azure. Then then the other thing that I talked about, if you already have a virtual machine, how do you add Chef agent to it? So just before we started this demo, I created a virtual machine. It's in a stop state right now, but this is a virtual machine. This is a standard virtual machine, nothing fancy here. But over here, I can go say, oh, now I want Chef on this virtual machine. So go to this extensions and say, add an extension. There are a bunch of extensions that are available today. Okay. I pick Chef, and I say create. And create is going to ask me, in this UI version, it is going to ask me an RB file. You know how to create a client RB file already. It has the server URL and some default settings. Upload the URL file and the validation key and click OK. And this is going to basically boot, inject the Chef agent, and the Chef agent is going to talk to the Chef server, establish the connection, and then there you have your environment up and running. Unfortunately, because of this demo issues, I'm not able to show the resource template that I have created, but feel free to stop by the Microsoft booth. We are happy to show you an end-to-end template that actually creates a server, that creates the virtual machines, everything. And there is a resource group, and you can set and we can show you how you can set RBAC rules, etc. on the templates. Okay, so this lists all the features that have been supported in Azure for a while, and some of the recent ones that Chef and Azure have added together. That pretty much sums up the Azure part. Eugene will talk about how they have used Chef for managing deployments in MSN.
So in MSN, I don't know, you probably heard about a site called msn.com, some in bad way, some in good way. I'm not going to go with the content on msn.com, but it's very interesting to me to talk about how we do the msn.com. So MSN right now, it's actually in 50 markets, and this site exists in 26 languages. It has a global footprint. It has massive audience. It's #1 portal in 26 markets in the world, and we manage thousands of nodes. All of that is 100% on Azure right now. So when we needed to do deployments in MSN of all those thousands of nodes, we actually were questioning what technology should we use. As you know, Azure actually has two major versions. There is a platform as a service PaaS and infrastructure as a service IaaS. We really wanted to develop MSN as platform as a service because we don't really wanted, we wanted just to create an MSN website. We didn't want to maintain OS. We didn't want to patch it. We didn't want to do all this work, upgrades and everything. Another thing PaaS gives you is elasticity in auto-scaling. And another great thing that actually PaaS has in Azure, and this is one of the biggest value proposition in Azure, is it fights very effectively with hardware underutilization. It can auto-scale very quickly because Azure just has your code, so you don't even manage to create your VMs or destroy your VMs. Azure does all of that for you. Azure patches the OS, everything. You just need to write the code, compile it, and submit to Azure, and this is the power of PaaS. But with that, actually, we wanted to manage all deployments with Chef, and Chef is great with working direct virtual machines, but in this particular case, Chef doesn't manage creation or deletion of virtual machine. In fact, actually, Chef doesn't know anything about it. Chef provides automation, Chef provides sharing, Chef provides data deployment. So how do we manage to combine both of them together? So what we did in MSN, we created the bootstrapper for PaaS, or we call it Chef Client Installer SDK. It actually provides the code for bootstrapping the empty role. And how many of you guys work with Azure PaaS, with Windows roles and with server roles and worker roles? Some of you. So I would really encourage you to look into the PaaS story of Windows Azure because this is something unique. Amazon doesn't have anything like that, and that actually would be pretty good exposure for you to what real PaaS can do. So the SDK that we provide is basically, it just installs the Chef client on the VM automatically, runs it as a Windows service on the machine, configures the node, talks to the Chef server, actually configures the node, manages the auto-deletion and auto-addition of those nodes, starts the client service, and after that, let Chef manage the VM. So we have the best of both worlds. So Azure Fabric brings the VM, instantiates it, and leave it alone. And Chef manages the VM, manages the states of the VM, does the deployment or any kind of automation. If Azure Fabric decides to take the node away, it can totally do it. Chef server will recognize the situation. If that node is brought back by Azure Fabric, again, we will reconnect it with Chef server, and Chef server will recognize it as a node for the particular service or site, and will install the needed software. And since we did it generically, we're going to push it as an open source. And again, I know Microsoft and open source is probably two words that actually don't really combine together for the last, I would say, 20 years. But honestly, it's changing. It's changing a lot. We are using a lot of open source, and we're actually contributing to a lot of open source projects. So we decided to have this project as an open source, so anybody who wants to use Chef with Azure Platform as a Service would be able to do it. So it will be on GitHub probably within days, hopefully even sooner. So this is a little state diagram, and I apologize, we don't have a lot of time. We actually started a little bit later during technical difficulties, so I'm going to be very, very brief. So this is a simple diagram that shows the bootstrapping of the Chef client on the Azure PaaS VM. And the red lines here is actually action that Azure takes for you. In PaaS world, you don't really, like I said, you don't really manage the time when the VM is created or deleted. Azure manages it for you, and that's the main problem that we're trying to solve. The rest is basically the SDK configures your node, installs Chef client, does the registration with the Chef server, and does everything else. When Azure needs to upgrade the OS or reimage or replace, in PaaS, you don't really need to do anything. Azure takes care of it for you, and that's the beauty of the model. So I'm gonna just show a very, very simple demo from the coding point of view, what it would take for you to create a Azure PaaS web server that actually would run on the cloud and talk to Chef. And so I'll just fire Visual Studio. Have you guys seen Visual Studio before, any of you? Well, at least we're getting somewhere. So it's going to be a new project. And this is standard Azure Cloud Service, so I call it ChefConf. So I want to say, I just want to do the standard ASP.NET web role, so everything that's Microsoft been working on for years, and I'm going to do the standard empty ASP.NET role. So all I'm showing right now is the features of Visual Studio creating a new web service that can run on Azure. So here, it creates a new code, so it has a new web role, it has some definition files that actually tell how to run it. And this comes with Visual Studio. Now, if you want to add Chef functionality, you can take it from our NuGet package that we have here. And we will post it on NuGet.org, and NuGet is standard technology from Microsoft to deliver packaged solutions. And when you install it, you will have the additional source code that's actually coming with us. So basically, this is our source code that actually registers the Chef client, talks to the Chef server, and does everything for you. So you don't really need to write anything. So the only thing left here is basically now you need to bring your permission files. So you need to bring your certificates. So I have it here. And I'm using the one from MSN. Actually, that's the real one that we're using, but of course it can be yours. It should be yours. And another thing you need to bring is modules. So in resources, we even put a simple README file for you that actually says, hey, go download the Chef client. So this is what Chef provides. You need to bring and if you use Chef before on Windows, you recognize this is the MSI, this is the Chef client that actually, Chef client that's provided by Chef. This is not an art. So all you need to do is just add it here. And that's it. After that, whatever code you write in the service, it will be talking to Chef server, and actually you can use Chef server to deploy it. So you say how you can do it. It's very easy. We provide you configuration file here, where you can specify what is your polling interval. Say, I want to poll Chef server every 300 milliseconds, and this is the URL of your Chef server. So let me see if I have one. Yep, for instance, this one. And here you can say the name of your certificate and the key, which is the same thing. And honestly, I don't think I have time. I'm being signaled that actually my time is almost up. So, but if you compile and run the solution, you will create the new service in Azure, and for each virtual machine that actually Azure Fabric gonna bring, it will automatically connect to Chef server on this URL, register with Chef server, and ask Chef server, okay, now what do I run? So your web role is now Bootstrapper, and you can manage all your deployments to whatever you want to do with that machine from Chef. So you can do data deployments, you can do config deployments, you can do binary deployments, anything you want. So you can totally manage the Azure service, Azure platform as a service running in PaaS mode from Chef. So, and that's all that it takes. Like I said, it's all going to be in GitHub in days. And so for the end of the presentation, I want to show you the resources for DevOps provided by Microsoft. So basically, if you go to this link, you see all our information about DevOps resources, and here is the little times about our presentations that we do in ChefConf, related to Microsoft. And from here, I think somehow we run on time. So if you guys have any questions, me and Kundana will be more than happy to answer them. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, yes. I noticed you're working with the web role. Obviously, there's also websites, which is another form of PaaS on Azure. Can you do that integration with Chef equally easily with that?
We will be able to. So the question is, can we do it with Azure websites in addition to Azure web roles? Yeah, we will be able to. So we're actually working on SDK. We actually want to have this experience anywhere in PaaS. So not only web role, but worker role and websites everywhere, and web jobs as well, to be honest with you. So yes, we will be upgrading it.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Hello, Eugene. Thanks. I have a lot of questions, but I guess I'll start with one. I noticed when you were configuring that NuGet package, you uploaded or you specified a Chef client MSI.
Yes.
Is there any thought to sort of reusing the resource extension so that you can get Chef client from the CDNs in Azure and not have to worry about the MSI?
Exactly. Yeah, we can totally automate that. I think right now this is more like a quick solution because MSI, what we did, we kind of cheated a little bit. We put, if you saw, I showed you the README file, so we tell user, okay, now if you want to take the MSI file, go to this URL, which is actually Chef URL, and download it from there. We can totally automate it if needed. The thing is actually, you need to check, hey, do you really want to go out of your box every time you want to do that, or you want to do it like once during the development cycle? Either way is fine. If there is a need, we can totally automate it. We just thought it's like priority 2 or 3 at this point. But yes, it can be automatable.
Hi. My question is around once you deploy the web roles, once they get registered with Chef, there would be a node in the Chef server, right? Corresponding to that web role or worker role, whichever it is. And my understanding is that they are they live for a very short time because they don't have to be up all the time, right? Your web roles and worker roles. Once they go down, how does the cleanup work on the Chef side of things with this kind of integration?
So when the Chef will recognize that actually the node is not there. For Chef, honestly, Chef server doesn't even know how many nodes will be created and deleted. Like I said, Azure Fabric manages that. So when the node is taken out of rotation, say it crashed or Azure Fabric decided to reimage it, whatever it is, Chef just go ahead and remove nodes. What we do basically use, and I didn't say it in demo, we use the naming convention. So basically, we just, for service name, and I can show you the naming convention if you actually come to me after this meeting. So, and there we just, in that naming convention, we just increase that underscore number of the machine, how many nodes you have in that particular services. We put it as part of that naming convention. So every time we bring one, we increase the count, and the name will be like underscore 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. And basically, when you remove one, then we're just taking it away. So we do have a way with Chef to manage, okay, how many machines actually are active at this particular point and what happens when they're being deleted or when they're being added. But that's all that Chef server needs to know. The rest of it, which build or whatever needs to be installed there, is totally different. It doesn't need to be cleaned.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Any other questions? We have some time for at least a couple more. No?
There.
A second ago, you showed the Chef integration with Visual Studio.
Yes.
Was that only the online version, or can I use it in the standalone version too?
It's actually, that was, first of all, that was standalone version.
Okay.
That was not Visual Studio Online, that was Visual Studio standalone version. Second is actually integration with the, not Chef particularly. It's actually, what I showed in Visual Studio is integration with NuGet package that we created.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Eugene and Kundana.
I think there's one more question.
Oh,
there.
one more question? We're running out of time, but.
Hi. Actually, this question is for Kundana. I think you were talking about resource manager templating language. I mean, probably I could get later about the GitHub repository, but and looks like it already supports VNet and stuff, right? But your online documentation doesn't reflect that. So, you know.
Right now, private preview. So if you want access, you can contact me later, and we can enable your subscription for private preview, and you should be able to see the all documentation.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Hi, Kundana. Thanks for your talk. So my question is, there's a lot of people that bootstrap nodes on Azure using WinRM,
Yeah.
or at least I think there are. How many people do that?
That's a good question, actually.
And so, okay, some people do it. Could you say anything about the benefits of using the resource extension instead, which you can also do through Knife Azure instead of doing it with WinRM?
Yeah. So Adam brought up a good point. You can bootstrap using WinRM, or you can bootstrap using extension. Extensions does not. It's an injection technology. It goes over REST API. There is no WinRM involved. The big advantage with doing it using extension technology is you don't have to open any additional ports on your Windows or Linux machines, because you're not communicating with the ports. And the second thing is by using it with the extension model, you are able to declaratively specify inside your virtual machine that you need these extensions, and extensions are resources just like VMs, so you can set dependencies, etc., on these resource extensions as well. So that would be a really big advantage of using the extension model.
Okay. Unfortunately, we are actually out of time.
But I'll be here backside if you want questions.
Yep. So thank you very much again. Please give another round of applause for Eugene and Kundana.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.